All right, we're here.
We're here
to start the show.
We're together. Look at that.
So check it out. So Mike and I are actually in the same studio in gorgeous Las Vegas. And so you actually have a really good show today. And if you've seen us before, you know, we make a good duo. Okay.
That we do.
Yep. His brain and my looks, man, no stopping us, brother. All right. So, hey, look, let's do some ground rules. So number one, here's the deal. Like our goal here is to encourage live discussion, right? We want people to call in like almost like a radio show, like a podcast, but we want to let that radio show flavor where cops can call in from around the nation and say, hey, I have a search and seizure question. Does that mean we're going to always know the answer?
You might.
I'll
give it my best shot.
I'll make some shit up, but so but the point is that we want you guys to ask your questions. All right. Oh, that's cool. We got somebody from Costa Rica.
Wow.
So we are broadcasting live on YouTube. We're also going to make this link available to all officers and so forth. I think it's actually good and maybe a little fun not fun is maybe the right word. You have to see the video first and see if it's a little fun. Maybe you wouldn't think it's fun.
We hope so.
Okay, let's watch a video and then we're going to comment on some legal issues. This is not directly a search and seizure issue, but it certainly is a legal issue. Let's roll the tape.
I'm gonna be on traffic with that. King Henry Frank 765, Burgess and Leclerc. Burgess and Leclerc, King Henry Frank 765. How's it going, guys? Hey, Dennis. Hey, hate to be the one to tell you this, but it sounds like you got a warrant out of Illinois. Okay. You got your ID on you? Sorry? Okay. Do you have anything on you?
All right. So, Mike, I kind of want to pause here.
All right.
Because you teach at the academy.
I do.
And you teach for a major agency that has a lot of esteem. And I guess the question I have for you is, if somebody asked you whether or not you go up to the car and they have, let's say the stop is for a warrant, which this is, should you tell the person they have a warrant immediately before you even get them out of the car?
I would say no, because that person, they know they have the warrant.
Yeah.
They know have the warrant.
Right.
Now they know that they have the
know.
warrant, right? So probably gonna stick around if they have that idea of leaving town, right?
Yeah, and you know what, and Sean agreed. Hey, what's up, Sean? And Sean, if you have a question, let me know. So my thing too, Mike, I was a trooper, so you know, we deal with a lot of DUIs, right?
Mm-hmm.
My philosophy was that if I thought a driver, was intoxicated, I would not tell them. Or I would not tell them that I thought they were intoxicated while they're behind the wheel.
Right.
Do you think that's good advice?
Of course, because what are they? They're going to flee, and if they're intoxicated, that's a problem.
Okay, well, let's see what happens here.
Why don't you step out of the car until we can identify you? You got anything on your person, man? You got anything on you? Any weapons or anything like that? What's up? Awesome. Okay, go ahead and step out. Hello? Go and step out, man. Yeah, reach. Unbuckle your seatbelt and step out of the vehicle. Yeah, what's up? Stop the car, man! Stop the car! Stop the car! Stop the fucking car! Stop the fucking car! Stop!
All right, let's pause it again. Mike, again, you teach police officers. What do you think about standing in front of a car and telling a driver to stop the car?
Well, the problem is just think about being a human being a little bit. don't put yourself in a bad spot.
Right.
I mean, yes, we're out there. We want to get the bad guy. This guy's got a warrant. We want to take him into custody. But are we creating a situation now? Now we're creating a deadly force situation. We're putting ourselves in front of that car.
You're almost like provoking it, even though we're going to talk about what the law is here a little bit for use of force, but there is no provocation law. But, you know, you would agree that your life and officers' lives are worth more than getting this guy for a warrant right now if he's going to leave.
100%.
And also, again, we go back to, hey, look, maybe we shouldn't have told this guy he had a warrant when he's actually in the car and he can just drive away. So, you know, and Matt is also, you know, correct on this. Even if the law allows it, it's not good practice. We do not want to create needless uses of forces, especially potentially shooting somebody, which doesn't happen here, but it definitely could have. Let's keep watching.
The fucking car! Stop it! Stop the car! Stop the car! Get off the fuck! Put on the goddamn brakes! Put on the fucking brakes! Put on the brakes! Stop the fucking car! Stop the fucking car, man! Jesus! Stop the car, man!
Carroll 91, he is going north past the county shed to Highway 30. I have 1050 in a ditch. I need medics to my location.
I'm gonna be on traffic.
Whoa. Oh, God.
We all take a collective. Holy shit!
Oh, shit.
Like, I'm like,
Oh.
I hope everybody else is like, everybody's feeling a little nervous, a little sweaty going on right now. Like, yeah, holy shit, right?
Hey, Sean, are you saying that's Iowa?
Yeah, that escalated quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it did.
Wow. That's your boys, Sean? Wow, that is crazy. Look, first of all, you know, I don't take any pride in, you know, criticizing an officer's performance. I can tell you, and I think Mike can be honest here too, we have both made mistakes.
Oh, yes.
Luckily, not that kind of mistake. I didn't break my back over it. But the thing is, I definitely have done things. I've been in front of cars. I've told people to stop, don't move. But this, now look, not only did he make a tactical, an unwise tactical decision, but it cost him, you know, he was, I mean, I don't know if it's severely injured, but he definitely, well, actually, no, he broke his back, right?
Yeah.
So that's severely injured.
Pretty significant for sure.
Okay, let me ask you this, Mike. Fine, he made a mistake. Can he shoot that driver?
Well,
Legally? What do you, I mean,
so we're looking at this. Okay, now he's in the situation that he's in. You look at those elements of deadly force. You know, the ability, opportunity, imminent jeopardy, preclusion. What's going on here? Well, you're on the hood of this car, and you're now accelerating to 60 miles an hour. Well, justified to shoot? Probably, but think about the ramifications now. You put a bullet in that guy through that windshield. I don't know if you all noticed the train behind him. Now you're riding a 60-mile-an-hour missile with a dead guy driving right towards the train tracks. So, you know, when you look at, could you apply that deadly force? Yes, but at that point in time, probably not your best choice. Because
now, yeah, absolutely. So here's the deal. You know, the argument's going to be, hey, you know what? From the plaintiff, right?
Mhm.
The plaintiff is going to be that family. So he's going to say, hey, the cop created this exigency or use of force.
Right.
However, it seems to me that the Supreme Court rejected that argument under a case called the City of Los Angeles versus Mendez, 2017. And in summary, they said the Fourth Amendment provides no basis for the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, which is the most overturned circuit in the nation, for transforming creating a Fourth Amendment violation because of a prior unreasonable search or seizure. So what that kind of leaves me here is this, is like, all right, even if the court says, look, tactically, it was unsound.
Right.
Okay, even if there was somehow a Fourth Amendment violation, which I'm not sure that is, but at the time of pulling that trigger, was your life in danger?
Absolutely.
Then that's what I think that's what our answer is. However, do you think it's likely that many departments in this nation are going to look at that and say, if we show it to a jury, they're not going to like it?
They're not going to like it.
Okay.
Not at all.
All right. So let's do a couple rules of engagement here. So I want live questions, and here's the deal: we have a few live questions. And Sean says lawful. We have a few pre-written questions from officers around the country that I'm gonna pick, Mike's brain and so forth. But one thing I want you to know is that if you have a live question, all you got to do is say Mike, not M-I-K-E, M-I-C, or just me, whatever. Ask your question. Here's the cool thing: if you ask a question live on our show, I'll send you an autographed copy of my Search and Seizure Survival Guide and a challenge coin. That's pretty cool. I want to incentivize people to get on the show. But here's the other thing. You do not have to have a camera. In fact, the cameras won't work anyway. All you got to do is say, just answer questions. So if you want to get on the show and you want to start that process or whatever, say me or Mike, M-I-C, and let's start.
You all realize the street value of an autographed Anthony Bandiero book.
Can I tell you something, Mike?
Yes, sir.
When I first published that book, I saw my book on eBay, and Rick, who's on this webinar, will confirm this, for $5,000. And I said to myself, if there's any fool out there willing to spend $5,000 on my book, I'm going to start putting my stuff on eBay for $5,000. And I tracked it. This is a true story. So I tracked it. I'm like, I got to, watch it. Right. I said, is my book really going for $5,000? And Mike, I'm a grown man. I can take criticism. Do you think that book sold for $5,000?
Probably 10. Wait, was it signed?
It was not signed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Sean, fine. It'll be a spot version. All right, Brian, you're going to be on deck. Brian Brindley. All right, so let's allow to talk. You're on the love line with Anthony and Mike. What you got for us?
Okay, so in arson school, we were taught that we could see cell phones on active fire scenes.
Okay.
And I've not found any case law saying we could.
Now, are you talking about with probable cause, or just with like some kind of reasonable suspicion, or just as a matter of like
So
practice?
when you're there on a scene, they were teaching us to seize phones that were recording the fire.
All right, Mike, do you have any feedback before I talk about this? Thanks, bro. I'm going to mute you. Actually, just Brian, stay on the line. Let's ask Mike what's your initial
Well,
impression?
some of my initial thoughts are, well, is there an evidentiary value there? Is there something that could show us evidence of a suspect, especially if we're investigating arson, correct, sir? So
Yes.
is there something that can give us evidence? And if so, then we can seize them. As far as looking into them, I'm sure you'll talk a little bit further on that.
Yeah, and look, here's my view. We are, you can imagine that, especially arson and fires. It's not something that at least I don't see every day, and I think it's something that a lot of people that saw a building on fire would maybe want to record.
Yeah. Oh, for
Right.
sure.
Because it's kind of interesting, right?
Live
So
stream, just like us.
that's right. So
So
go ahead.
one little thing to it is that we were taught, and also that firefighters that are on scene recording, because I've done this myself when I was not on the engine doing fire suppression, I was on the medic. I would start filming or taking pictures as we arrived. And I was told they can seize our phones then, should we be doing, I could see that doing a dump on it from there or forwarding pictures. I could see that being compelled, but they were saying we could just, without warrant, go and seize phones on scene.
Right. So look, I think it's a very bad practice to have this mindset that you can just start seizing people's phones because they have something that you would want to see. Everybody has a cell phone, and we know from a U.S. Supreme Court case called Riley that the Supreme Court recognizes the value and the privacy of a cell phone.
Absolutely.
Our whole life is in this. And so the point is this. Let's talk about the law. The law is this. If you have probable cause that there is evidence on that phone, and you have some form of exigency, you can seize that phone. Now, mostly these seizures of cell phone cases are of suspects. They are the ones that have, let's say they are a robbery suspect and they were in a team, of, let's say you believe that there was 3 people involved. you find one of the robbery suspects and you have evidence that it was a coordinated robbery. You can seize their phone because you have probable cause plus exigency. Well, when you have a witness, you don't necessarily have exigency. When you go up to that person, look, I'm a good citizen. If a firefighter, arson investigator like you or whatever, the police came up to me and said, sir, would you be willing to give me your video that you recorded there? I would say, absolutely. What's your email address? So seizing their phone is problematic, and we do not want to do it as a matter of routine unless you have legit exigency. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So now we also have some more people that want to ask questions, and that's really what the show is about. Let me see, Brian. So, all right. So, Brian, Rick, do me a favor. Put your email address in there and write it down that Brian asked the question. Let's get him a autographed book and a challenge coin. John, you got one? Let's do it.
Okay, see, Mike.
That's right, Mike.
Hey, you all know why God created police officers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see what the answer is.
I think they know the answer to that one. All right, John, you're on the Search and Seizure show. What you got?
Hello, John.
He's probably looking for the button. Hold on.
There you go.
There we go. What's up, John?
How about now?
Perfect.
There we go.
I got a vehicle that was involved in a fatality crash on Sunday. Traffic unit secured it in a secure location, but then had the tow company take it yesterday. Now all of a sudden they want to do a canine sniff on the exterior of the vehicle while it's at the tow yard, and it's been in unsecured location for basically 24 hours. Now, dog alerts, I go out there, dog alert, but I feel I'm kind of in the gray area for the chain of custody and stuff and being able to get a search warrant for it.
All right. So I have an opinion on that, but I want to hear Mike's opinion first. Did you have any opinion on this?
Oh, a couple things. Do you all have PC for a warrant initially on your investigation related to the fatality?
They didn't do a search warrant for the CPU or anything on the vehicle. They released it to the company, so they never did a search warrant on it. They asked me to go out there because it was a Mexican national, bunch of cell phones and stuff in the vehicle. And then there was a bunch of people calling in that were unrelated or even registered owners of the vehicle really wanting that vehicle.
All right. So here's what's going on here. Okay. So number one is, what state are you in?
New Mexico.
Oh, you threw a monkey wrench into it. All right. Well, look, you correct me if I'm wrong, but New Mexico requires reasonable suspicion to sniff cars, right?
Negative.
Okay.
I can do an open air sniff on the exterior of any vehicle as long as I don't prolong the stop. So I run my dog on.
Which you're not prolonging here.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No. Okay. Good. And so, so thank you for because I know New Mexico is a tougher state.
You consider a search warrant to go into the vehicle.
Right. You need agency to search it. All right. Cool. So here's my deal. Overall, I think we're good. Okay. And here's what I mean by this. So as long as the sniff is lawful, which it is, that gives you probable cause. You are bringing up a very legitimate issue about a chain of custody. Okay. But I got to tell you, I've never met anybody, and I've never experienced it personally, somebody putting drugs in my car. Have you, Mike?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So if you are alert on that car and you sniff it, if you alert and you search it under the proper, get the warrant and so forth, and you find kilos of cocaine, there is a presumption, there is an inference, presumption that those drugs belonged to the last person who controlled that vehicle. And if the defendant wants to come in and argue that there was a random tow truck driver that is playing Santa Claus and putting drugs in people's cars, let them make that argument, right? Does that make sense? That's the way I look at it. But, I will tell you that we have a prosecutor on this podcast. Her name is Tina, and she is one of the best out there. She does HIDA and so forth. If she wants to add her 2 cents, I would love, and I'll pay probably $200 for it. But if she wants to add her 2 cents and say, hey, I think it's good, or I think it's bad, or Anthony, I kind of think you're, missing these other points, please do. But Tina does this for a living, and it's just, it is a case that we can at least argue, even though we do have, of course, some Swiss cheese. It's not perfect. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I think there's some other speaking points to that. They've got people that are trying to get to that car. They're actively concerned about what's inside that car. So that, if it does come down to an argument there, then, well, there's other factors going.
Yeah.
People knew, and there's some concerns of what was inside that.
Yeah. And by the way, this stuff, these arguments of, hey, we have a backpack and it was, let's say it was given to somebody else. And then we find this contraband, but we want to charge the other person. We want to charge the person who owns the backpack because we really think it's theirs. Yes. Could somebody have put the drugs, guns, dead body, severed head in the backpack? But you're a police officer and you are, investigating this. Tell me, why do you believe that that's not really likely? And my friend Tina says, I agree with Anthony. I also can't figure out how to access the speaker. Oh, I can turn your, hey.
Oh, hi, Tina.
Oh,
Tina. We can
oh.
that, Tina.
All right, let me remove you, John. Actually, we can. John, let me remove you as a speaker. Let me add Tina, because Tina's going to give her 2 cents here, and then this is what she does for a living.
On to something now.
Yeah, we are. And wasn't Tina your prosecutor?
She was when I was on a HIDTA task force for a number of years. She was my prosecutor. We did some good stuff.
I'm sure.
Right, Tina?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hey.
I can.
Awesome. I did not prosecute Mike. I prosecuted along with Mike, fantastic detective. No, I agree with you. I really don't have much more to add. I would really do appreciate you figuring out the microphone though. So if in the event that I have something to add,
but
future
Tina,
question, yeah.
No, I'm gonna because here's the thing. When I train cops around the country, you cannot underestimate how many cops talk about this, that they think that because it's out of the custody of the defendant, somehow somebody else has it and so forth, that they can really never, pin this on a person. But isn't that really kind of like a constructive possession argument? Like, tell me, why do you believe it is their item? Maybe their DNA's on it and so forth, or they admit to it. Or it's kind of unrealistic. Their explanation about how 2 kilos got into the gas tank is kind of unrealistic. That's kind of the point, right, Tina?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Well, stick around. Don't go too far, because I have a feeling I'll pick your brain a little bit more. So let's just mute you for now. All right. So somebody has another, and my friend, Richard at Bandiero.com, just to get your book and so forth. So Mike, let's go on. Mike is on deck. See, we're not even gonna answer our questions today.
I like it. This is fun.
This is actually what we're here for. So
friends calling in. I'm making new friends. This is good.
This is really good. All right, Mike, I just turn on your mic.
Hey, Anthony, can you hear me?
I can. What's up?
Hey, Mike from Oregon here. I got a traffic stop question for you. So
okay,
can you,
Mike, Mike, I'm sorry, Mike, I don't want to cut you off, but the answer is no.
No,
so now,
Oregon, sorry.
Now answer your
Nope.
question.
I knew that was coming. So summer's almost here. We're seeing an increase in motorcycle riders. As it relates to traffic stops, could you touch on the Fourth Amendment implications of a rider who is refusing to remove their helmet? We can't accurately ID who they are just from their eyes.
Yep. Okay. Excellent question. And Mike, what do you think the answer is?
Just reasonableness. Can you reasonably speak with them, identify them, see indicators of impairment? There's plenty of obstructive factors that come into this, where it's absolutely reasonable to say remove sunglasses, helmet, anything obstructing our views.
And I also have another take, and I'm pretty confident in Oregon also upholding this. There is no reasonable expectation of privacy in a person's appearance, right? So we have tons of case law in that. We have, old school lineups from the 1960s where the Supreme Court and other courts have said that a person can't just hide their face. We also have no expectation of privacy in things that they leave behind, like their fingerprints. But the point is that's where we're at here. So I think Mike is absolutely on point, that you have a legitimate law enforcement interest to make sure that this person is not giving them their brother's ID. And also, again, they don't have an expectation of privacy. Okay, so Mike, I'm sorry, actually, I did end the mic a little early, but Mike also takes, you touched a little bit about forcing the issue. Look, you're going to have to make those decisions, right? But I will tell you this, right? Cops are smart, okay? They really are. They really know when they're being played versus when they're dealing with a sovereign citizen, a person who's looking to make you look bad on YouTube. I guess my answer is this. If you really believe that you cannot determine who this person is, then you're going to have to force the issue, make the arrest, failure to identify. You can't, you can tell me what the law is in Oregon, but in, Nevada, there's a law that if you do not have, what like some kind of like adequate identification for.
Basically to be able to confirm who you are.
That's right. If you're going to write a citation for whatever, then you're going to have to make the arrest, because you can't just give a citation to somebody that really you don't have confidence of who they are. So I'm sure Oregon has a similar law, but that's where we're at on that.
Just do me a favor, use that wonderful word we like to talk about here, because. Just tell us why you did it.
Yeah.
What were the factors that made you go to what you did?
All right, let's throw in one of these questions in the middle of this, and we're gonna and for those who have asked the question online, Richard is not going to email you. You have to email Richard and say, hey, I asked the question. I want my book. And okay, all right, cool. So somebody was asking about the collective knowledge doctrine. So Mike, there are two collective knowledge doctrines, and this is kind of like some education here. This is not like a scenario, but what do you think?
It's a pretty powerful doctrine. The two things that you're speaking of, horizontal and vertical, are the two terminologies that come through some of the case law and some of the stuff that we teach at Blue to Gold. And it's a really powerful thing, specifically the vertical collective knowledge. We've all been there. We've been on a stop. I've got information that I've got, let's say, probable cause to search a car, or I believe that this person is armed and dangerous. I yell over to my partner, Anthony, hey, pat him down.
Right. I don't know why.
Does he have to know? Do you have to know?
No.
Do I have to know? And that's
Yeah.
the question. I have to know. I have to be able to have the articulation to do so. So that's your vertical. It's
Pretty
more,
easy.
more direct, for
Yeah.
sure. When we start talking about horizontal, that's a little bit more engaging. But the idea of this is I'm working some information, or I have some information, but that doesn't give me the PC of where I'm at here. But you've got some information. You're working on maybe a case in tandem,
Yeah.
where you also have stuff that we could supplement each other, and together those can be combined to get us our probable cause or build our case further.
You have an example is horizontal, because that's when that one kind of gets a little funky,
This
right?
one is a little funky. So good example, DEA is working a case on a guy.
Mhm.
Wires are up, right, Tina? All those wires, working wire cases. We've got abundant case going on, but we don't want to burn our case. We've got information of somebody traveling around town, like, hey, reach out to your local cops. Say, hey, just do me a favor. I want that car stopped, but here's my ask. I don't want to burn my case. Just develop some probable cause
On your
for
own.
me on your own, and then take it from there.
Yep.
All right. So good if they develop their probable cause. But the case that we teach in Blue Gold here is the cop sees the car and just stops it. No RS, no PC, and gets into the car, starts searching it, does find the dope that's in there.
And
So we
it's-
knew it was there.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, just for this case that we're talking about, I don't have the reference in front of me, but the officer misunderstood
Mhm.
what the DA was asking. I think the DA he thought that was more of direction. Hey, go do it.
Go do it.
But it wasn't what they
the
were.
ask was, let's shield our case, get yourself some probable cause, also known as wall stop.
Right.
He doesn't find that, so he gets into the car like, crap. What
Yeah.
do we do now? I got the dope. I'm holding on to it here, but I didn't have PC. My stop wasn't justified. Well, are we losing that evidence? No, not under horizontal knowledge, because I or the case agent or the DEA had the justification for the stop. You can come in
Okay.
and save yourself.
But in all fairness, what if the DA says we ain't coming in? We're not burning our Title III. We're not burning our case. Can they leave this cop out to hang out to dry?
Could they?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
No,
So
not coming to the barbecue. Though,
they're not
next
coming-
week.
no, that cop is not coming to the barbecue.
Right.
I think it actually, Sean, Williams, it does sound familiar to me. I can't, but that does sound familiar, but Williams is also a very common name.
Yes, it is.
So here's a question from an officer. I'm sorry, back up. It's not an officer. It's actually, I think, a citizen. And I really want to let you guys know, for those who are watching this on YouTube, that I appreciate when citizens ask me questions. I think that I want the cops to know the law, but I also want citizens to know the law, and I also want them to know the real law. I don't want them to just, take the extremes that they sometimes find on some, cop block stuff and so forth. So this citizen from California says, hey, look, I've been stopped for a traffic violation. I give my name, address, I give my insurance, I give my registration, and I also give my driver's license. However, I do not want to answer any other questions. I don't want to tell the cop why I think I was being pulled over. I don't want to admit that I was speeding or whatever it is. Is that covered in the Fifth Amendment?
Well, they've met the burden that they have to provide identification, registration, insurance. We're talking about a traffic stop violation. What's the mission? Mission is to deal with the origination of that stop. Now, there are times when we can ask those questions, but can we compel them to tell you why they were late for work?
Right.
No, and I think this question kind of travels down to that. Is that obstructive?
Right.
Are they obstructing our lawful duties in that circumstance by refusing to ask those? And I think it's no.
Yeah, look, it is what it is. It's a softball question. You know, this happens more and more. You know, we can get into some other rabbit holes where people only roll down their window by 4 inches. Can you get the person out of the car? The answer is yes. But the point is that you know, the Fifth Amendment is always available.
Always available.
And it is what it is. All right, let's move on. So here's another interesting question from California. This one involves actually, Tina, I'm gonna unmute your mic here, and I want you to help with this question. This is kind of a little interesting. It involves a canine, but it's a gun canine. All right. So this officer says, look, I've been on patrol with my canine partner for over a month. So very new officer reaching out. And he says, my dog is certified on gun detection. I listened to your webinar approximately 2 weeks ago about, you know, traffic stops and canines. And so he says, look, what if we have, we do a free air sniff around the vehicle, right? We can do that. We know that. In fact, we talked about in New Mexico too, right? You don't need reasonable suspicion in most states. In some states you do, like Pennsylvania, Washington, and so forth. Now, since technically firearms in California are lawful if they're transported properly, right? They're in that container. The ammunition is separated and so forth. Now, also though, it's easy to articulate if someone is a prohibited person, unable to possess a firearm. Let's say we run them and they have, you know, felony convictions. Now, but what if I'm unable to do that? What if I'm unable to confirm whether or not they're a prohibited person and so forth, and they're not really being forthcoming about their criminal history? And the dog alerts. What do we do?
Well, like we said here, if they're lawfully possessing an item in a vehicle, and the dog is trained to detect guns only, well, if you can have it, then you can have it. So there's an issue whether or not that free air sniff is going to be valid, because tell me why you think there's criminal activity going on. Again, if we're based on an RS evaluation of that sniff. But when you start talking about, okay, can they have the gun in the first place? Are they a prohibited person and not determine that? Are they being evasive, lying?
Yeah.
Are there indicators giving us RS about what's going on?
Well, Tina, let me ask you something. What if you had an officer? What do you think about this? An officer stops a vehicle and says, hey, a very common question, Tina, is that officers will say, hey, do you have any weapons in the vehicle? And the driver says, nope, I have no firearms, for example, right? And then we legally deploy that canine, right? We don't have reasonable suspicion. We deploy the canine without extending a traffic stop, which is a big deal in 2023. Courts are really looking at that extension issue, but we don't have any of those problems. The dog alerts. Tina, what say ye? Is that giving you probable cause to search that car?
You know, I think so. And I analogize this to the whole issue with marijuana, right? We have a lot of canines in this jurisdiction who still are trained, because you can't untrain them, to detect the odor of marijuana. Marijuana is legal in the state of Nevada. Obviously, you know, there are some stipulations to that. California as well, with some stipulations. But, you know, I think at that point, it falls upon just good old fashioned police work. So you ask those questions. And like Mike said, you know, you try to determine, are you, in this case, are you allowed to do you have a weapon in the car? So if you ask that question, and then he says no, and then the canine alerts, now I think you have PC to search. Just like with the marijuana dogs, you know, the police officer has to ask that question because marijuana is legal. Do you have marijuana in the car? Guy says no, canine alerts, you have PC to go in. So
yeah. What if I said, Tina, what if I told the officer, I don't want to answer your questions, and the dog alerts the gun dog alerts?
You know, I think then it goes to those factors that you have to develop. I can't think of one.
I think that, go ahead.
No, I'm trying to think of one, and I'm trying to analogize it again to the marijuana situation. I think it would just be questioning to develop PC.
Is that your burden to show them now? Can they have it or not?
That's right.
And I think maybe your investigation's outside the car for a minute.
Yeah, that's right. So So I think that if we don't have, and first of all, I completely agree, right? Because we do see these in marijuana cases. We do see officers in some cases smelling raw marijuana in a state that's legal, and they ask questions like, "Hey, do you have some marijuana in here?" Like, out of curiosity, how much do you have? And the guy says, "Oh, I don't have any marijuana," and it's raw marijuana. That is part of probable cause that the person is engaged in criminal activity. Because why wouldn't they say, yeah, I got some marijuana in here. I got, under an ounce, or I got, whatever it is, if it's legal and in a container, whatever the state law says. Why wouldn't the person just be honest about it? Because it's not illegal, right?
That's deceptiveness.
It's deceptiveness, right? So when they lie about that, it contributes to probable cause. Now, we do know that guns are legal in every state. It is the Second Amendment. So alert in and of itself is not going to be probable cause. But Tina, how about this? How about juveniles in a car and the dog alerts with nothing else? We good?
I'm assuming the law is that the juvenile cannot have that firearm and there's no adult in the vehicle.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Then you're good. Then you're good. Same with marijuana, right? Juveniles can't possess it. So then you would have PC to search that as well.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now, what about a 19-year-old?
Meaning, oh, well, I think I'm hunting.
Yeah, that's my problem. Yeah, exactly. All right, so good to go. I think that we answered that to the best of our ability. It is a very unique case, and and a lot of these states that, quite frankly, are not, they don't embrace the Second Amendment of some other states. I would be shocked if we had a gun dog is great for schools. It's great for prisons. I would be shocked if we had a gun dog in Nevada. That in and of itself as being
only.
Yeah, just rolling around and doing patrol. I mean, Nevada, I think when I become a resident here, they give you a gun. It's a high point. It's nothing fancy.
Right.
It's not bougie, but
here you go.
All right, let's go to another question. So does anybody else have a question to want to ask live to the three amigos over here? I know we had several people that had questions, and I do see some questions in the chat, and quite frankly, we're trying to focus on the ones that we have in front of us. So anybody else want to ask a question live, let me know. I know we had, I think, another person that did want to ask a question. Sean, did you want, maybe Sean did or did not want to ask a question. All right.
Where are we going? What do we got?
Oh, this is a good one. Shane had one. Shane, are you ready to talk? But Shane, you're on deck, but this is a great question. So this isn't a California question. We're just a lot of questions. So as a game warden, we constantly come across unoccupied vehicles in remote places. We like to look inside for evidence of hunting or fishing equipment. For officer safety reasons, we want to know if somebody may be inside or if there is evidence that the registered owner has a firearm with them. Again, another gun, right? Like a scabbard, maybe some, ammunition and so forth. Occasionally, we have vehicles that have dark tinted windows, and we use our cell phone to physically touch the car and to look into the car. Now, before you answer this question, Mike, I never knew anything about this. Okay.
I did until recently. And so I was in a class in whatever state, and somebody told me about this, and I said, "You got to be kidding me."
Oh, actually, no, it was Las Vegas. And so exactly. So I went out to the car and I put my phone against, because I have dark tinted windows, and I put it against the window, and it lit it up like it was.
So you turn your camera on, correct?
Yeah, you put your camera on. Now, my brother, who was actually with me, he put his camera on the same window, and his camera did not show the same thing, but his phone was a little older.
It's an iPhone 2, correct?
Yeah, that's based on what I pay him, because he works for me. So new camera, it had the laser, camera, worked amazingly. Now, is that a search under the Fourth Amendment when we do stuff with the game warden or whatever? Is that a search?
So in your speaking to that, you're touching the car in this circumstance, and we'll talk about some variations here. So Jones, yes, absolutely. Are we touching with the intent to gather information? And yes, we are gathering information and physically trespassing on that person's vehicle.
Hold on, Mike.
Yes.
Are you telling me that simply putting my phone against the window of a vehicle is a search on the Fourth Amendment? I mean, that's what, trespassing?
I am telling you that, sir. I'm telling you all that. Yeah. Now that we've taught everyone how to do these searches with their phones, we got to make sure we back it up with that. So yes, US versus Jones. GPS trackers, chalking people's tires, touching with intent. All that is a search. However,
when
we look at this, the question actually came, we're not touching it. We're not quite getting to
Okay.
that point where we're making that physical contact with the vehicle.
Okay.
Now we start looking about expectations and privacies and, and what we can and cannot do. And we look at things as kind of a two-part test, does the person that puts tint on their vehicle, are they letting the world, well, one, it's hot outside sometimes too, are they shielding from people looking inside their car?
Sure. I mean, I think that's part of like, I know I have tint on my vehicle for one of the reasons besides being UV protection is that I don't want people looking in my car. So
And
I want to shield my privacy.
they're saying, hey, I don't want you looking at my car. So they are enhancing their expectation of privacy.
Okay.
And the other part of this test is, okay, with what they're doing, is society willing to agree with that's reasonable? Yeah, it's reasonable to put curtains up on your windows or put tint on your vehicle. Yeah, society thinks that's fine. So when you have both components of this, because you have to have both, then there is that expectation of privacy. And we start being intrusive in there, searching it. Now we're not touching it, but we're using technology to see past what that person has shielded from prying eyes. It's
All right.
kind of a peeping Tom, if you will, sir.
Little peeping Thomas. Tina, well, if you want to add something, by all means, let me know if you want to turn the mic. But this is something that cops are doing around the nation, because it is actually pretty damn cool. But it is a search, and I think Mike nailed it because they have the tint on the car for a reason. Now, I know that vehicles are less regulated than or they have less expectation of privacy, as you say, than a home, and so forth. But you're gonna need probable cause for that, or you may have some officer safety issue. So if you have a traffic stop and the guy says, no, my window doesn't roll down, can we use the phone?
You're concerned about safety now.
Yeah.
You're not concerned about peering into and gathering evidence.
Right.
You're concerned about your safety.
Yeah, and also we have a lawful traffic stop, and we have a right to look into that car, right? Now, okay, let's talk about Marvin's question. So Marvin throws a monkey wrench in this. He says, hey, hold on. Let's say that in my state, having this tint is illegal. Does that change the outcome here?
So you can't have any tint at all.
Let's say no tint at
whatsoever.
all. Let's say no tint at all.
So I guess if you're using a meter tint gauge, then you're doing so. So yeah,
Let's just say, you look at the car, it's parked in a parking lot, right? There's no
Mhm.
traffic stop here, right? Let's not do the whole meter gauge.
right.
But you're not going to do it. But you have this car in a parking lot, you go up to the car, and let's say you're not touching it.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that's possible to do these searches.
Right. I don't know if it works that way either.
But you're not touching it, but you are a couple inches from the, what about that?
I still think they're showing either against contradictory to state law. They're still showing that, hey, I don't want you looking in here a little bit here.
I agree. I mean, hey, look, why isn't it any difference than the person on their Dodge Neon putting up a blanket on their car?
Well, because they got to sleep.
That's right. And so what if you had, in other words, what if you had a device that could see through blankets, could see through towels on the window? Isn't that kind of like the same thing?
Still the same thing.
Now, having a towel on your window is not illegal.
Correct. Unless you're driving,
right? But window tint is. So separate the issues out. Can you leave a citation on their windshield saying, hey, you have probable cause that you have illegal tint? Yes.
Of course.
Can you search the car and still look into the car? No. Okay. So let's see. So who's ready? Shane, are you ready? Okay, I think Shane's ready. Let's have Shane ask this question.
What did Tina say about GPS?
Yeah, and also James says, what's up, Shane?
Much, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, brother.
Okay, we had an officer that made a DWI arrest. They got voluntary consent to get a blood draw. Took him to jail, drew the blood, booked him in, moved on. After the fact, the defendant's attorney has sent a letter saying that the defendant has withdrawn his consent to remove the blood draw.
So I'm going to play the part of the defense attorney here. You will put that blood back in my client immediately.
Get the turkey baster.
Right, put it back in.
Tina, if you're around, I would love to have your prosecutor brain involved in here. Tina, what do you think the answer is here?
Yeah, the consent was given. It's
Right.
too late to take that back.
Look, I got to tell you, you got to go to this defense attorney and say, defense attorney, I give you an A+ for creativity,
That's good.
but a D- in constitutional law. You can't just You can't take back what you've given. It's our blood now. So this is a different issue. You know, maybe the defense attorney is thinking something like he's equating it to, like, let's say a car. Hey, if I say you can search my car and 5 minutes into it, I say, get out. You got to get out.
You got to get out.
But if I say to somebody, hey, can I have, you know, this glove? Can I keep it forever? You know, that's what blood, you know, you're not going to get back the blood like Mike says. And you say, can I have this glove, you know, and take it forever? And then you, I don't know, you're not getting it back, I guess. But the blood is even more like kind of cut and dry. You're not getting that blood back.
Yeah, they're trying to make the argument that it hasn't been tested yet, so they could withdraw the consent prior to it being tested.
No, and here's the other issue. The other issue is that even if there was something about that, let's say that it was a physical item that was let's say the person said, the cop said, hey, can I borrow your sweater to test it, you know, for forensic evidence? And the person voluntarily gave it over. Once the police have it, and they also have probable cause. Now, if they don't have probable cause, they may have a problem. But once they have probable cause, they do not have to ever return evidence. That is now in police custody. It was lawfully in police custody. Here was with consent. And now they can do a forensic analysis. So you're never going to get that. You're not going to get that item back simply because the consent is revoked, because we don't need consent to basically do the analysis.
Right.
Okay. Tina, anything else on that? I think Tina did mute. Okay.
No.
Okay, cool. All right. So anybody else have any questions? So what if the defense attorney said the consent to draw the blood was fine, but no consent to test it? Oh, okay. That is actually a great question. And I think the officer, I've never seen it happen, but I think the officer is going to have to be like, look, that's not how I work, right? I'm asking your consent to test the blood. I'm not looking to just take your blood, you know, for entertainment value. I'm looking to test it. If you are not allowing me to do what I want to do with it, then I'm going to apply for a search warrant. Would you agree?
There's got to be that reasonable innocent person factor there. You know, I'm taking your blood. The expectation is we're going to test it. So yeah, I agree.
Okay. So excellent question. So if anybody else has any questions, Shane, does that answer yours?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good job.
Thank you.
How about the use of force to draw a blow when attempting to exercise a warrant? Okay, well, so Alan, this is a question of reasonableness when it comes to the Constitution. It's also a question of state law. There are some states out there that will not allow you to use any force to get evidence from somebody's body. So some states take the position that if they do not want to, you know, get the warrant and so whatever. Look, it's a state law question, but there is a case out of California where the cops did get a warrant. CHP got a warrant, and they used a lot of force on the person, and they are suing. And actually, no, back up. Not only back, there's a criminal case on him where Gascon, I think that's his name, who's not really probably a person that we agree with, but he has charged CHP officers with various assault charges. But I also know there is a case out of New Jersey. I don't know the name in front of me, but where the cops got a warrant, but they used a lot of force, you know, to get the blood. And the New Jersey Supreme Court found that because the force was so unreasonable, the evidence was tainted. All right. Oh, so that's the Mike, is that that's the CHP case? 20. Oh man.
And a nurse indicted.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, by the way, we really have a power panelist today. Not only do we have Mike here and Tina, who is really, really smart about these things. Mike Brave, and I compliment all the time because he deserves it. But Mike Brave is probably the preeminent use of force, expert in the country. I mean, he knows. He's a very, very, very smart guy that's known nationally. And I had the privilege of going to one of his classes, and it's no joke. Okay,
and he's got awesome initials.
He does. Mike, I mean,
MB.
Brave. Yeah, MB. Yeah, well, and also a better. Brave is better than Boone. I'm not
sure.
I'm not trying to insult you.
No,
you have a lawn. I mean, there's some. Wasn't there a famous person named Boone?
My great uncle.
You serious?
Yeah, the hat and everything.
Yeah, right. Can you stop a car based on a witness stating that the car was driving recklessly? Why don't you answer that, Ken? Mike. Kenneth is going to answer.
Nice to meet you, Jim.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So, based on a witness telling us driving recklessly, right? So, who is this person? Are they anonymous caller? Can we track their ID through that? There, if we need to get a hold of them, then could we? That's part of the analysis here. But are they seeing this right now? Is it happening in front of them? Are they projecting, information in the future? If we're talking about recklessly. Now we're talking about potential harm to people. So there's a few factors when we look in here. So the answer is yes, as long as we don't think that they're lying, they have an ulterior motive about what it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the way I look at this, Ken, is this. Okay, when I look at reporting parties, especially citizens, 911 callers, I ask myself two questions. Number one is, why should we even believe this person? Why should we trust them, right? We believe them. Why should we trust them? Should we trust somebody who sends a letter into the police department that has no return address and says, Anthony Bandiero is selling drugs at 555 Main Street? Should we trust that person? The answer is no, because they're not willing to let us know who they are. Now, does that mean that tip is worthless? No, but it requires some form of cooperation. Now, so who can we trust in law enforcement? We can trust undercover officers that don't want to blow their undercover. We can trust confidential informants who have been vetted, who are presumed, who are reliable because of prior information given, just information, so forth. We can also trust a 911 caller who does not even want to give their name and wants to remain anonymous and not be involved if we can track them down. That case is called Neverett. So that's the first question. Why should we trust this person? You talked about that. The second question is, what information are they giving us that indicates criminal activity? Now, if they're saying, just like Mike says, if they say, look, this guy was driving recklessly last week, worthless, throw it in the trash. They're saying, hey, I'm behind this car. It's all over the road. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to be dragged into court and so forth. Or I think this guy's a gang member. I don't want to put my name in a piece of paper. That is still good information about they're weaving all over the road. They almost hit another car. So why we trust them, what information they're giving us that indicates criminal activity and so forth. Let me give you an example, though, of where I've experienced this, and maybe you have too. So Californians will move to other states, unfortunately, and they will bring some of their experiences with them. And they move to a place like Las Vegas, where there are a lot of guns and open carry. Then they will call 911 and say, this guy at Walmart is carrying a gun. Okay, can we trust them? Absolutely. They're a citizen, but what information are they giving you for criminal activity? It's not a crime in Nevada to open carry. Right. That's what I'm talking about. All right, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question? So the caller tells us this information and we pull up behind the car and they're driving completely normal. Yep. Everything is fine.
Yep.
Can we still stop them?
Yes, if it's recent. I mean, it's soon. It's not like 45 minutes have elapsed. Also, have other phone calls come in about this person. In Neverett, it was one phone call and the cops found that car within 15 minutes. They got behind it. It was not doing any violations. However, the caller did state that he ran me off the road and they still pulled it over. The Supreme Court said a couple things. Number one is, look, we can charge that person with false report. You go up to the car, you say, hey, sir, you've been called in. And he says,
my ex-wife.
Yeah, I bet you it's Julie, right? And number two is that they're alleging something that has future harm. If we don't do something about this, maybe that next violation is a wrong way, and they kill some people. All right, our last written question is this: during a suspected DUI investigation, is the passenger required to provide an identification? So upon my arrival to a traffic collision, the driver and an additional passenger were contacted. The driver immediately identified herself as the person who was driving, displaying the symptoms of DUI. She was immediately detained. Upon contacting the passenger, he immediately refused to provide his name or any statements. What say ye? Can we demand ID from this passenger?
Is the passenger doing anything wrong?
No, but Mike, they, in our accident collision report, don't we have to put their name as who the passengers were? We have to make a report on this.
We do have to make a report on this, but again, is there any statute or guidelines that says this person must identify themselves? Is there reasonable suspicion? Is there probable cause of them merely being a passenger? Now, we could indicate if there's a fatality and they are a material witness, that's a
Right.
whole different story.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
But I'm just hanging out in the car and you had a little too much to drink tonight.
But okay, Mike. But let me say this: they are. Let's say I'm saying that they are material witness because they witnessed a DUI. We want to call them in court and say, did we'll put them on their oath? And did you witness your driver drinking at the bar? Your friend, right? Did you believe he was intoxicated? Isn't that a material witness?
To a certain degree, can we compel that right there?
Tina, what do you think about this?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think the only circumstance under which you're obligated to present an actual form of identification is when you're involved in a traffic stop when you're driving. So
okay, fine. Let me play. Go ahead, Tina.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so fine. I'm the passenger. I said, look, I won't provide my a physical ID, and I also won't provide my name, address, phone number, nothing. I'm not providing you anything. And the cop wants to potentially, again, just think about the case here, though, is a very vanilla DUI. It's simply weaving, no accident, no fatality like Mike was talking about. Do you think push comes to shove? Do you think that officer can compel that passenger to identify himself?
No, I don't think so. And I think you're walking into the territory of a detention, potentially a stop, depending upon, how long this goes on. So I don't think so, but correct me if I'm wrong, please.
So far I agree, but what about this? What if what if the vehicle was involved in a fatality? Do you think that does that change your opinion?
I want to say yes, because now you're potentially a witness to a fatality. I'm not sure.
Let me, there's not a lot of case law on this, right? But I've done some research on this because it is something that has come up with some of my clients. And here's pretty much what it comes down to. And there's some Ninth Circuit case law on this as well. But what it comes down to is this. Do you think that you're going to potentially lose your case without this witness, right? If you think you could lose your case, or you think you need this person, like they are the missing ingredient, then we can identify them. Our goal is to not obviously, they don't have to. Now, one thing, Tina, and I think you agree with this, we're not saying that we are going to get their story on scene. We cannot force them to utter words. Right. But as far as, hey, we need you. Like, let's say, for example, we do really believe that the passenger, the seatbelt lash is, on there. It's consistent with being a passenger and so forth. The driver, we think the driver does not have any seatbelt marks, so they were not wearing a seatbelt. But there were other people in the car. This person has maybe a mouth injury that's consistent with, there's blood in the steering wheel. But the point is, this is a fatal accident, and we're not the driver's not admitting to driving. But this passenger could probably put that person behind the wheel. That's a material witness. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. Now, the other thing the Ninth Circuit, when I say Ninth Circuit, a lot of courts, the other thing they want is that they want the officer to articulate, or at least be able to prepare to articulate, that there was no other less intrusive means to identify that passenger. So, for example, I guess what we have, the passenger's not a good example. What happens here is witnesses to shootings. And you'll get a guy like across the street, he saw a drive-by, he's in his car, he stops, he's like, yeah, I saw it. And the cop is like, all right, tell me what happened. And the guy's like, look, I'm not telling you anything because these are gang members. I don't want to be involved in that report. And the cops do not really know what happened, who the shooter was, maybe some information. And the guy's like adamant, I'm not giving you anything. But the guy is in his own car, and the cop runs the plates. And the driver, the RO, comes back to a driver, and we run that person. And the characteristics match that person. Let that guy go, right? Don't arrest him. Don't threaten him. You probably know who he is. And then what I tell that my cops to do is hand it to Tina, okay? And that's specifically, I said, give it to her, because she's the one that has that can compel witnesses to come to court under subpoena. Am I telling my officers good advice? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think just to circle back to the original question, you said vanilla, plain DUI, no accident involved. You're not going to lose your case if we don't have
Yes.
that passenger information. So the answer ultimately is no.
Yeah. And you can actually, I'm going to do a circle.
Circle.
Because it goes back to Brian's original question when we started this show today, and he was talking about just grabbing people's phones as a matter of routine. I do not recommend that you take people's property just because it can help your investigation. I know personally, if I happened to record a crime on my phone, let's say I'm doing like a selfie. Hey, I'm in, New York, guys, and here's the, this and it's over. And then it happened to catch a mugging, and the cop comes up to me, and we don't need my phone for the mugging, but the cop says, hey, your phone captured a mugging. Give me your phone. I'm like, why?
Whoa.
Why? Number one, I'll give it to you, and you don't really probably need it. Let's say you have your suspect. So I think a lot of cops, I've seen it, by the way, with enforcement auditors, right? They kind of punish the person for recording the scene. And I don't like that. I think Tina would agree with me on that too. Just if you don't need it, don't do it. We also don't want to burn our public who probably don't want to lose their phone for 6 months.
And I know a lot of agencies can provide them with an email to send the video to, or agencies can use their body worn camera and just record it off the phone if the person is willing to give it to us and memorialize it that way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No. And Brian, I was only talking about just a little bit of a hypothetical. All right. So look, that's what we have for you guys. It's been an hour. We want to keep these at an hour. You have more questions. That's great. Thank you so much, Tina. You're the best. I can't believe.
Good to talk to you, Tina.
Yep. Tina used to
I
be
appreciate it.
Mike's prosecutor for his drug cases and so forth. So it's a small world stuff. Mike Brave, dude, I can't thank you enough to grace us with your presence as well. Hopefully I'll see you guys at the next show. Rick, do me a favor. Can you put in the chat a link to the next show? And with that, my friends, thank you very much. Mike, always a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Take care.
And expect Tina to be on the show one day too.
Right
Okay.
here.
Right. Yep. Right there.
You
We're gonna
got
get
it.
on the show and we're gonna pick her brain on a lot of these more of these issues and so forth. All right. Thank you guys.